Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and remember, context is everything. Media Network founder and CEO John Michael is reading a textbook cover to cover, and guess what? New chapter. Chapter 35, South Asia in the Middle East, 1945 to August 2001. Only about 70 pages to go in this entire textbook, cover to cover, every single page. I'd say probably 99% of the words have been read here, live, on the Context is Everything Media Network. Without further ado, let's get into it. Chapter 35, Section 1, Nations of South Asia, 1945 to 2001. Setting the scene. August 15th, 1947 was a joyful day in India. Everywhere crowds gathered to watch parades and fireworks. At the stroke of midnight, power had passed from British colonial rulers unto the hands of Indians themselves. This was India's Independence Day. 3 years later, India adopted a new democratic constitution. It has set lofty goals for the nation to secure all its citizens justice, social, economic, and political liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship, equality of status and opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity of the nation. That stopped being an Indian accent pretty much immediately upon me trying. I tried the accent. It didn't work. This was the Indian National Constitution that I just read about all of the things that truths they hold to be self-evident. Achieving these goals would be difficult. Most Indians were poor, uneducated, and divided by caste, region, language, and religion, and ethnic background. Other nations and subcontinent faced similar challenges. Independence and partition. New heading. New heading, new chapter means new pair of sunglasses. So let's get those now. Thank you, everybody, for joining. This is 66 followers today. I give a tip of the hat to the 67th subscriber. Thank you. Yes. Thank you all for being here, whether you subscribe or not. But, 67th gets a hat tip and a mention in tomorrow's description of the video, if they would like. Independence and partition. Thank you. As you have read, Indian nationalists have demanded independence since the late 1800s. After World War II, Britain finally agreed to these demands. As independence neared, a long simmering issue surfaced. That would happen to the Muslim minority in the Hindu-dominated India. What would happen to the Muslim minority in Hindu-dominated India? Two nations. Muhammad Ali Jinnah, leader of the Muslim League, insisted that Muslims have their own state. Pakistan. Riots between Hindus and Muslims helped persuade Britain to partition or divide the subcontinent. Drawing fair borders was impossible because Hindus and Muslims lived side by side. In 1947, British officials hastily created Hindu India and Muslim Pakistan. Pakistan was made up of two widely separated areas in the northern part of the subcontinent that had a large Muslim population. Oh, weird. Weird. West Pakistan and East Pakistan. Here's going to be the picture. I think it'll be mirrored for you, the viewer here, but you see Pakistan is on both sides of India. I didn't know that. I thought that it was only where West Pakistan is. This book was made in 2001, so maybe it's different now. I don't know. Okay. Tragedy unfolds In 1947, millions of Hindus and Muslims crossed the border of India and Pakistan in both directions. During the mass migration, centuries of mistrust, which the British had exploited to keep the population divided, plunged northern India into savage violence. Sikh and Hindu mobs slaughtered Muslims fleeing into Pakistan. Muslims massacred Hindu and Sikh neighbors. An estimated 10 million refugees fled their homes. 1 million or more, mostly Muslims, may have died. Horrified at the partition and the violence, Mohandas Gandhi, the father of the nation, turned once more to satyagraha to restore peace. But on January 30th, 1948, he was shot and killed by a Hindu extremist, Jawaharlal Nehru. India's first prime minister told the stricken nation, "The light has gone out of our lives, and there is darkness everywhere." Gandhi's death discredited the extremists and helped to end the worst violence. Still, Hindu-Muslim tensions persisted. India, world's largest democracy. New heading. India built on the legacy of British government, including its system of law and government. Today, with a population of about 1 billion, it is the world's largest democratic nation. Unity and diversity. To achieve independence, Indians had united behind the Congress Party. Still, the new nation was deeply divided. It included hundreds of princely states that had survived British rule. Indians spoke a wide variety of languages and dialects. The majority of Indians were Hindu, but millions of others were Muslim, Sikh, Christians, or Buddhists. India's constitution set up a federal system, like that in the United States. Under this system, powers are divided between a strong central government and a smaller local government. In time, the government reorganized the princely states into a smaller number of states. It recognized 15 official languages and 35 major regional languages. The Nehru Dynasty, Nehru Dynasty. For 40 years after independence, members of the Nehru family led India. From 1947 to 1964, Jawaharlal Nehru worked to build a modern secular state dedicated to promoting social justice. After he died, his daughter, Indira Gandhi, and later his grandson, Rajiv Gandhi, served as prime minister. Both were popular, energetic leaders, but at times their high-handed policies eroded goodwill. In the end, both fell victim to violence, as you will read. Today, Sonia Gandhi, the Italian-born widow of Rajiv, has entered the political arena, today being 2001, August. Under the Nehru dynasty, the Congress Party dominated Indian politics, but in the early 1990s, support deepened for the fundamentalist Bharatiya Janata Party, BJP. Unlike the Congress, which wanted to separate religion and government, the BJP called for the government built on Hindu principles. For a few years, the BJP held power. In 1999, the Congress Party was returned to power, but it was a shadow of its former self. As the millennium turned, India's political future remained uncertain. Ongoing divisions. India's size and diversity have contributed to religious and regional diversity. In 1992, BJP backed calls for destruction of a mosque in Uyadhya. Hindu fundamentalists claimed that it stood on sacred Hindu site seized by Muslim invaders centuries earlier. The BJP wanted the Hindu temple built there. The conflict touched off rioting at Ayodhya, and the mosque was destroyed. Other divisions affected the prosperous Punjab region of northwestern India. There, some Sikhs wanted an independent state. In 1984, these Sikh separatists occupied the Golden Temple of Amritsar. When talks failed, to oust them, Indira Gandhi sent troops. Thousands of Sikhs died in the fighting. A few months later, Gandhi was killed by 2 Sikh bodyguards. An assassination ignited battles between Hindus and Sikhs. New heading. Economic growth and challenges. Like other developing nations, India wanted to apply modern technology to expand agriculture and industry. The government adopted a largely socialist model, drawing up 5-year plans to set economic goals and manage resources. Industry and agriculture. British-built railroads gave India its basic transportation network. Under Nehru, India built dams to produce hydroelectric power and poured resources into heavy industries such as steel. By the 1960s, India was on its way to becoming an industrial power. Development, however, remained uneven. India lacked oil and natural gas, 2 resources essential to economic growth. It had to rely on costly imported oil. To turn out the educated workforce essential to a developing industrial economy, the Indian government built schools and universities. The nation's literacy rate climbed, but unevenly. Boys were more likely to attend schools than were girls. Also, children from poor families often received little schooling because they were needed to work. Seeking to make India self-sufficient in food production, Nehru took advantage of the Green Revolution. New seeds, chemical fertilizers, and irrigation methods boosted crop output. Still, only farmers with enough land and money could afford to grow the new crops. Most farmers continued to use the same methods as in the past. They depended on the monsoons and produced enough to survive, but had little surplus. The population issue. Rapid population growth hurt efforts to improve living conditions. India's population has tripled since independence. While food output rose, so did demand. More than a third of Indians live below the poverty level, eating only 1 meal a day. As the population boomed and the Green Revolution eliminated many agricultural jobs, millions of people streamed into cities like Calcutta and Bombay to find work. The Green Revolution in this textbook, by the way, the Green Revolution in this textbook means GMOs, the implementation of massive corporate farming. That's what the Green Revolution is in 2001, by the way. Now the Green Revolution means something different. Often they could not provide basic services such as water or sewage. To help the urban poor, Mother Teresa, a Roman Catholic nun, founded an order in Calcutta called the Missionaries of Charity. Its branches in India and elsewhere have provided food and medical care to thousands. Population control. The government encouraged family planning but did not impose harsh population control measures as did China. China did impose harsh population control measures. Efforts to slow down population growth met with limited success. Many Indians, especially in rural areas, saw children as an economic resource. Children were expected to work the land and to care for parents in old age. Economic reform. An economic slowdown and pressures from international lenders forced India to make reforms. Turning from socialist model, it looked to successes of Asian tigers. It privatized some industries and made foreign investment easier. By the 1990s, India had a significant role in textiles, technology, and other industries. Computer experts at India's software center at Madras gained a worldwide reputation. Social change. New heading. In India, as elsewhere, urbanization undermined some traditions, yet most Indians continue to live in villages where centuries-old attitudes and values remain strong. Reforming the caste system. Discrimination based on caste continued. In 1930s, Gandhi had campaigned to end inhumane treatment of untouchables, whom he called Harijans, children of God. India's 1950 constitution banned discrimination against untouchables. The government set aside jobs and places in universities for these long mistreated groups. Despite such programs, deep prejudice persisted. High caste Hindus still received better schooling and jobs. In the 1990s, government tried to open more jobs to untouchables. Violent protests by higher caste Hindus who feared losing their jobs forced the government to back off from this plan. Women. At independence, women gained the vote along with their legal rights. A few educated women like Indira Gandhi won elected office or entered professions. In the cities, upper and middle class families sought to educate their daughters as a sign of modernization and accomplishment. Yet because of class and caste differences, many girls from poor families received little or no education. Women on the low rungs of society cluster in menial low-paying jobs. In rural areas, women make up a majority of the workforce, but few receive wages for their labor. Indian women have formed organizations and movements to meet their needs. The Self-Employed Women's Association, SEWA, formed production and marketing cooperatives, opened banks, and provided classes and legal advice for poor women. Women's groups have also fought violence against women, protested dowry laws, and called for environmental protection. New heading. Pakistan and Bangladesh. At independence, Pakistan faced severe problems. Early on, military leaders seized power and ruled as dictators. The country lacked many essential natural resources for industry. Ethnic rivalries also fueled conflicts. A divided nation. West Pakistan and East Pakistan were separated by a wide swath of Indian territory. The people of both regions were Muslims, but their languages and cultures differed. Bengalese in the east outnumbered Punjabis in the west, yet Punjabis dominated the government and economy. As tensions mounted, Bengalese broke away. In 1971, they declared independence for Bangladesh, or Bengal Nation. The Pakistani military ruler ordered the army to crush the rebels. To escape the bloodbath, millions of Bengalese fled west into India. India responded by attacking and defeating Pakistani army in Bangladesh. Government defeat discredited Pakistan's ruling general. New civil president, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, promised to make prosperous and progressive Pakistan. That's what Zulfikar Ali Bhutto promised, to make a prosperous and progressive Pakistan. Bhutto was in turn overthrown, tried, and executed by the military. Later, civilian government was restored. Twice between 1988 and 1996, Bhutto's daughter, Benazir, served as prime minister, but was also ousted from power twice. By 1999, Pakistan's elected government faced severe challenges. Muslim militants demanded that Pakistan aggressively assert its right to rule India's largely Muslim province of Kashmir. Severe economic woes and widespread corruption plagued the government. Once again, the military stepped in. Led by General Pervez Musharraf. The military dismissed the elected government and suspended the constitution. Musharraf claimed that the chaos before us was of saving the body of the nation at the cost of losing a limb, the constitution. The military promised to revive the economy, fight corruption, and restore stable government. At the same time, many nations, including the United States, denounced the military takeover and called for a return to democratic rule. The economy. After independence, Pakistan moved to improve agriculture. It distributed unused lands to landless farmers, experimented with new high-yield crops, and financed irrigation projects. Building dams and clearing land helped boost food production at a high cost to the environment. Deforestation or destruction of forest land caused terrible floods when monsoon rains were heavy. I like the sound of this phrase. I'm going to make a note of it just because I like the phrase. It sounds like that song, How Bizarre, How Bizarre, How Bizarre. Remember that song? What was it? Improve agriculture, distribute lands and landless farmers, experimenting with new high-yield crops, financing irrigation projects, building dams and clearing land. Building dams and clearing lands, I think, is a marginally funny line. That's right. To modernize, Pakistan nationalized major industries. More recently, the government has encouraged private or mixed government to private ownership of business. Like other developing nations, Pakistan faces an ongoing financial crisis. It has borrowed heavily from lenders such as the World Bank, IMF, yet debt service paying interest on loans take 40% of the nation's budget, leaving little for development. Some international authorities have urged outright cancellation of this debt of Pakistan and other developing nations, yet such a move might discourage further foreign investment in nations that desperately need it. Trials of Bangladesh. Since 1971, Bangladesh has struggled to rise out of poverty, but geography often stands in the way. Its large population is crowded on low-lying coastal plains. The region is subject to devastating floods when monsoon rains are too heavy, or to droughts if the rains are too light. Cyclones, fierce circular windstorms are another frequent threat. Explosive population growth has strained resources still further. More than 50 million people many of them women and children, live below the poverty level. Large amounts of foreign aid have brought little relief, in part because various military governments have misused the assistance. Since the early 1990s, civilian governments have worked to encourage foreign investment. Foreign businesses took advantage of cheap labor costs to make clothes in Bangladesh for export to Japan and the West. However, human rights groups revealed that textile workers, often young children, were treated like slaves. Development in Bangladesh seemed to mirror the miseries of the early Industrial Revolution in the West. New heading. Final heading. Thank you. 66 followers, 67th follower gets a tip of the hat. Thank you. And all other viewers, thank you. South Asia and the world. India and Pakistan achieved their independence as the Cold War began, and each followed its own path. Nehru welcomed economic aid from both superpowers, but otherwise embraced the non-aligned movement. Pakistan, feeling threatened not by India but by the Soviet Union to the north, accepted the United States' military aid. Partly to counter this alliance, Indira Gandhi signed a treaty of friendship with the Soviet Union in the 1970s. With the end of the Cold War in the early 1990s, both India and Pakistan sought aid from the Western powers, especially the United States. Conflict over Kashmir. Fear and mistrust marred relations between India and Pakistan. At independence, border conflicts ignited a war over Kashmir, a princely state in the Himalayas. Its Hindu monarch decided to join India, but its Muslim majority wanted to be part of Pakistan. Since then, Pakistan and India have fought several wars over Kashmir. In 1999, the border conflict erupted anew. India accused Pakistan of funding groups inside Kashmir who opposed Indian rule and sending troops to fight there. Even after the fighting ended, tensions remained high, especially because India and Pakistan were flexing their muscles on another front: nuclear weapons. Here, let's do a quick search and see. I'm pretty sure Kashmir would still be in India. But let's see. Pakistan and India, Kashmir. And let's do news. Pakistan says civilian killed by Indian gunfire on Kashmir boundary. India says ready for polls in Kashmir as top court hears Article 370 pleas. Towards another India-Pakistan war over Kashmir. 11-year-old, okay. When Kashmir is not, no, okay. So what is it right now? Let's see. This article is Kashmir hopes 2-year ceasefire rekindles Indian-Pakistan trade. So they have a demilitarized zone as well between this. Let's just see. Is Kashmir in India or Pakistan? India has control of about half of the area formerly princely state of Jammu or Kashmir, which is comprised of Jammu and Kashmir, Ladakh, and Pakistan controls a third of the region, divided into two provinces, Azad Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan. There you have it. Okay, nuclear issue. India tested its first nuclear bomb in 1974. India was proud of its new status as a nuclear power, but Pakistan felt threatened. It tried to acquire its own nuclear technology. In 1998, Pakistan and India both tested nuclear weapons. Its nuclear rivalry raised new fears. Leaders of two nations met. They agreed to confidence-building measures to ease tensions and improve relations. Still, both countries faced strong nationalist and religious pressures to use at least the threat of nuclear conflict in future confrontations. Afghanistan. In 1979, Soviet troops invaded Afghanistan. Millions of Afghan Muslims fled into Pakistan, while American aid Afghan guerrillas based in Pakistan fought against the Soviet puppet government. In time, guerrilla attacks and dissent at home forced the Soviets to withdraw. Conflict raged on for years as rival factions battled for power. By 2000, a radical Muslim faction, the Taliban, controlled much of Afghanistan. The Taliban government imposed harsh rule. It also harbored Muslim extremists from other countries and was accused of sending militants to stir up fighting between India and Pakistan over Kashmir. And finally, Sri Lanka. In the 1970s, ethnic tensions led to the guerrilla war in Sri Lanka, as island nations off Southeast Asia, southeastern coast of India, Most Sri Lankans were Buddhist who spoke Sinhalese. A Tamil-speaking Hindu minority charged the government with discrimination. When efforts to win equality failed, Tamil rebels waged war to set up separate nation. India at first favored Tamil separatists, but in the 1980s, Rajiv Gandhi sent troops to smash the rebels. The attempt failed, but outraged Tamil extremists assassinated Gandhi in 1991. Although fighting slowed, tensions remained, with occasional violence. That's it. We have our first mention of the Taliban, which shortly after this book's production would probably be a bigger part of the book. The book was copyright date 2001. Right. That's it. God bless. Toodaloo.